Right, this is going to be another episode of Hot Take Point Made, or as it could be called now. You know, I always make that joke that when we used to do the show By the Numbers, me and Richard Lewis, it felt like all the best drama and news would always drop one day after the show, because then people knew they had like a whole week of the news cycle to get past whatever scandal had happened. It feels like, Maui, the problem with this show, in theory we do try to do it almost every week, but the problem is, can we get to the show before Kassad tweets all the insane hot takes that he has every day of his life? Are there even any left by the time the show comes? That's the problem now. Every day I wake up like, what's he tweeted today? And then it's like, there's some... remove the planet Neptune from our solar system. What the fuck is going on? It's always just something like that, isn't it? So let's see on this episode. Let's see if we'll get to any. Also, I will actually point out, I know we've been quite harsh on the fan takes, but we haven't got that many left, so we needed to submit some more fan takes. Remember, you can just say, take your username out. We won't roast you personally. We'll just roast your stupid idea and notions about the game. So anyway, I've got a fan take, but it's not that good. So, gentlemen, who has one that we could start with here? What we starting the bidding with? Come on, where are we opening?
I've got one. I've got one. I've got one where I dug a little bit more into kind of it's like a conceptual take, something that it's not directly about, say, like a team today or a player or anyone's even directly just a bum or who am I going to overrate today? I was thinking in the conceptual idea of a World Cup where you have to have 5 players representing a country to make your team. I was thinking, okay, I was trying to make my own mental list. I don't even know why I was doing this, but I was just trying to go, who's the best, who's the second best, third best.
Cup or something. Is that what we're trying to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like a Nations Cup. Yeah. So so making these teams, I think the best country and the second best country are actually pretty obvious. But then I was thinking, okay, what's the third best country? And
I'm going to assume the best is Russia right out the gate. It must be Russia, right?
The best is Russia, because you've got. I started making my teams on paper. Okay. So the best would be, you could pick a couple different in-game leaders. If you really don't like Chopper, you could go Boomich. But I think it's pretty clear that you're going to do something of like Monasi, Donk, Kyosuke, and then you think of a supportive element. There's actually kind of less than you might think, but if you really want to go roll it back, you could get Magix. If you think Zway's been doing an okay job, that's fine. It doesn't really matter to me. There's a handful of good Russian anchor support players, and the second best is just Mongolia, because the Mongols are just an elite team right now, top 3 in the world. But the only thing is, I think that Russia beats them right now if they actually join forces and get the best that Russia has to offer. And then the third team was racking my brain, because I thought there were a handful of countries on paper that made sense. And I'm not sure how I feel about this, but I would say, and this is my hot take, the third best country, if I were to assemble the 5 best players on paper for that country, it's France. I didn't know where. I didn't think I was going to come to that conclusion, but I think it's France. And the roster that I would put together on paper, and it's kind of weird because it doesn't seem like it's that strong, but then it just makes a lot of sense on paper. Whereas when I go through the other countries, I think I have to pull in a kind of a random name here or there that might just not fit. So yeah, my roster on paper is you got to have Apex, obviously, as your in-game leader. You have ZywOo as your opper, and then your 3 after that, it kind of drops off, but it's not horrible. You have the 10th ranked team in the world in 3D Max putting forward Body as your aggressive rifler. You have Exorcise as your lurker / anchor player. And then you're probably working with Gravity or Lucky. I was thinking between the 2 players, who would it actually be? But I think it could be Gravity as an even more supportive element, or Lucky. I think Lucky's the better player on paper most of the year, but Gravity's had a real weird surge in form. But I tried putting forward a better team on paper, and I'm not sure if they really decidedly beat France. So I'll even explain. I think the other countries that are in the running are Turkey, obviously because you just have Aurora, and so that might be better. But I like the prospect of having ZywOo over Aurora, and I think that the 3 that are the weaker core, you would say, in Body, Lucky, and Exorcise, that might tip the scales in Turkey's favor. Other countries would be Brazil, but then again, you have no opper that can really stand up to ZywOo. Then you have Israel. There's no in-game leader or opper with that group.
True.
Like it's an insane rifle 5-man lineup, but it doesn't really have an opper. And then Denmark would probably be the last. And it's probably the most complete team on paper next to Turkey to fight against France here. But I just think that with Apex and ZywOo, you have two arguably best in role today. Like you might have the best in-game leader, you do have the best opper, or 1 and 2 really with m0NESY. And then your weaker 3 core is still a strong enough core 3 that we see that they're the 10th best team in the world. And I mean, I'm looking at Astralis in comparison, and the results lately don't merit me putting them above France. So yeah, the 3rd best country right now to put a 5-man lineup would be France.
Good hot take, Kassad.
I mean, it's just you. I don't know. The thing is, like,
I've only just noticed he has a full Serbian flag in the background as well. Like,
oh yeah,
that's intentional. That's completely intentional.
And I've only just noticed, because I wonder why he was sat all like that. It's like, whatever.
Yeah, actually does notice that too. It's just too ready for this kind of topic. Actually,
it's like he's got all the background.
Oh, right. We might get this show might get us canceled.
Okay,
actually,
go on.
France's number 3 is like super crazy. I think. How much time did you spend already in China or wherever you are right now?
We're in Romania. We're in Romania, admittedly.
Oh, he's doing it remotely. Yeah, he's doing it remotely.
Yeah, it's a remote broadcast.
Okay, I guess you're close to me, but like Romania is like, I don't know. You're just insane. That's the bottom line. It's like saying that France is number 3 if you would rank the players just because they have ZywOo and Apex. I would say
it's a take
Apex.
I did. Of course I said Apex. Apex would be your in-game leader, ZywOo would be your opper, and then I said it would be
You said
body.
like gravity, then you like exercise and body and lucky, and all these people are not even tier 1 players. Like they don't even compete in that environment at all. Besides the ZywOo Apex combo, they're irrelevant in any kind of title competition.
He just took Falcons to 3 maps. And they almost beat them. They almost beat Falcons in the quarterfinals.
Well, I almost married fucking Adriana Lima when I saw her once in America. Nothing really happened.
Isn't your wife in the room with you?
Yeah, she's outside. Okay. But the thing is, like, the bottom line is like saying not Ukraine, but France is number 3 is super crazy when you have like obviously Turks who would destroy that lineup in 50 out of 50 games in a best of 3. Maybe 49 out of 50 simply because, ZywOo would go nuts one game and then it would be crazy. But the sheer firepower of the Turks against that French lineup is unmeasurable. Like unmeasurable in any sense. The ones that you skipped, obviously you said Russia, Mongolia, that's fine. Then we said Israelis have players that can compete outside, that they don't have an op, obviously. They would struggle there, and maybe an IGL, but I think they could make it work. It would be a tough game. For me, that you're not mentioning Ukraine is crazy to me. You are mentioning 3D Max players, majority
What would your Ukraine team be then? Go on, give us your
just from the top of my head. NPL as an IGL, Simple, Bit, Zontix, and name another one, whatever you want.
But I have to say that is better than I thought. I hadn't realized
that's a pretty strong. Yeah, that's pretty strong 4, but I couldn't think of a 5th. I couldn't think of a 5th.
Can be anybody from this, like
probably with that new team.
Yeah,
just
like somebody from let's say Fnatic or like whatever.
Yeah, one of these teams.
Jack Casbo, all those players. These people would beat French lineup majority of the time. So that's already 3 lineups that I think that can easily beat them. Now, where do we fit with some sort of a Danish lineup? Do we not count that one as a it doesn't have to be a
what 5 are you doing? Give us the 5.
But let's think about it. Let's see. Device number 1, right?
I wrote mine down, but yeah, I'll hear
Device, Yabi, not Hooksy as an IGL.
Who's the IGL?
I would put Krisen from OG.
You could put Kerrigan. You could put Kerrigan.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh my bad.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Kerrigan number 3. Device. What did you say? Device, Kerrigan, Yabi, and then Ster number 4, and then we would need another one. I wouldn't want to put Stav there because of the obvious form. It would have to be maybe an
Blame
anchor,
F?
like a Blame F, yeah.
Who else is there, right? There's not
Yeah,
many
it
people
has
left.
to be Blame F.
Yeah.
It has to be Blame F. I was going to think Magisk, but then I said, like, it's not really good enough,
Okay.
then Blame F would be the solid choice. So that lineup itself would probably beat France more time than it would lose, which would make it generally better, right? If that's the requirement for somebody to be better than the other person, right? For the team. So that's 4. Who else? North America or Canada? Can they compete?
Yeah,
against
I
France?
can't. You
Come
can't.
on. They don't have
I couldn't
ZywOo
make
for
a
fuck's
5-man.
sake. Come on.
Dude, I
No,
can't make
I'm
a
just saying,
5-man lineup from
Surely
Canada
ZywOo
or
alone
from
beats like fucking USA.
Yeah.
Come
So
on.
USA
Yeah.
is not really in a contention. So that's 3, 4. What did he say? Already 3 or 4. Just on top of my head. If I did the research, I'd probably come up with more, with 1 or 2 more at least. So the take is absolutely a thumbs down for me. Never.
Here's the problem,
Ever.
Kassad. I actually think you're
Will make
both
sense.
right, but it depends on how you frame this question. So my problem is this, is if Maui's setting was actually, like I asked at the beginning, is this that we're going to have a Nations Cup, like they're saying? Well, no one knows if it'll actually be in CS, but, you know, maybe in League or CS, there's going to be, like, essentially like a WSG tournament, but is it going to be a one-off? So as in, like, you know, like WDSG, sometimes people would make, like, a Ukraine team, and it would be, like, Bondic and Simple and a bunch of people who don't play together. But obviously, because they don't play together, oftentimes, actually, the roster wouldn't be as good as it looked on paper, because it's, like, not a real fucking team, and they're playing one tournament. The problem I have is this, Maui. If that's what this tournament is, the Kassad's right. And he's right, actually, for nearly all the reasons he gave. Like, the problem those 3D Max players have would be they're actually not that good. Like, they've barely ever been to a deep playoff run, etc. They've ever done it, etc. The problem is, I think you would be right, Maui, if instead what you said was that for some reason someone woke up tomorrow and a genie did a wish that you can only have national teams. Not in one tournament, like forever, you can only have national. Because here's the difference. I actually think you're right. I think France would actually be underrated if this was a real team. As in, if you let those 3D Max players actually play like long term with ZywOo and Apex in whatever system. Because, by the way, the one thing I'll give you credit for was to take a long time ago last year, I think even early last year, was that 3D Max actually is one of the better tactical teams in the game. Like, because when I watch their team play, bro, every time I've ever watched them, I'm like, there's almost no players here I would ever pick to be in a fucking tier 1 team. Like, that I think maybe like Body got a little bit, and the Maka guy I'll give a little bit of credit to. Most of the other ones I watch them, and I'm like, bro, this is how I know you're actually playing CS, because these guys are just like average. These are fucking mid-ass pros. Like, these aren't top. So the difference is, if you had to make a one-off tournament where we're just playing, you know, like almost half freestyle, I don't think they'd be any good. I think even ZywOo couldn't carry them. But if this was like a real team, basically, if this was instead of those international squads with Misuta and Kyoji, etc., this would be a way better squad. Like, I could believe these pieces could like play around ZywOo, and having ZywOo and Apex would be pretty dope. Like, you'd have a good structure of the team. So, but I also sort of agree with Kassad. If you were just doing it as a one-off tournament, like Aurora already would be really good, as much as we all meme on them. Like, they're already fucking good right now. Ukraine, actually, I agree with Kassad. When he put it together, because I hadn't even thought to put Simple in there too. That's actually a banger. To be fair, the Ukraine one's like mad underrated. The problem obviously is no one's trying to make a squad like that in real life, so we've sort of written them off to some degree. The only thing is, though, Kassad almost did himself, but you saved him by saying Carrigan. Because I can't believe he actually dared to say to you that 3D Max players aren't even tier 1 pros, and then he attempted to tell me Crizzen was going to be the
I know, the Crizzen.
Get the fuck out now. Listen, no.
And so, okay, and
but if you put Carrigan there, it's fine. It's fine.
Listen. I wanted to just avoid Hooksy, and I completely forgot about Harrigan. Like,
Sure.
that's the whole reason. Like,
I mean, he's been away from a Danish lineup for a long time.
By the way, the saddest one actually is the Danish one, because when you see that one, you realise, bro, there's actually not any real reason that team couldn't play together, by the way. Like, we all talk like Carrigan has to be in phase for it, does he? Is there a reason he can't play in like whatever squad this would be, or they can't come to? Because by the way, when you make that squad, the Danish squad's pretty fucking good actually. Like that could sort of cook low key.
he could legitimately go to Australis right now and make them better.
Yeah.
Instantly tomorrow. because he would speak Danish, he would have device, he would have a stare, he would have Yabby, all those like young kids, and then Magus, who he'd worked before. I'm not too sure about him. Maybe they can replace him with somebody else, but he would make them better, like 100%.
You could even argue, by the way, for all we know, his calls might actually be even better in Danish. That's the joke. We've just assumed called English for fucking a decade, so we all forgot, haven't we? So who knows? No, by the way, I think it's not a bad hot take, because here's the thing: the hot take part basically is like I say, you almost have to imagine like we just made CS, so you have to be national teams. You did some laundry shit, basically. If we did some laundry shit, I think Maui's got a subtle point. I agree with Cassandra. If we're just doing it tomorrow, I do think a lot of teams would.
Well, here's why today it works in such a strong way. It's a little bit off of its recent form with 3D Max and how they did at EPL. Because if you can actually, you take Aurora and you put them in an EPL environment, as we just did, we saw them lose out in that to what? Navi. They lost to, who else did they lose to at this one? They did pretty badly. Yeah, I mean, they lost to FaZe, and 3D Max just beat FaZe. So it's like the teams that 3D Max beat at the event, like, yeah, in the final game, FaZe beat Aurora. You had 3D Max beat G2. You had 3D Max beating Navi. You had 3D Max beating FaZe. And then you're telling me I get to upgrade a team that I already know can beat FaZe, that can beat G2, that can beat Navi, where Aurora couldn't. No, by the way,
I am with you. I do think the one part Cassad was uncharitable with is you do get to have ZywOo though. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know, like, to be fair, I do think you can drop that player in the team and he will frag out. Like,
that's what I'm saying. I think ZywOo does a lot of heavy lifting here, and the fact that 3D Max's recent results have actually been really good.
Maui, listen, like, Aurora team has been the playoffs team that plays close with all of the teams constantly, including Vitality, with ZywOo, Robs, and everybody else who is better than Gravity Exercise. Okay. As a Turkish team, and not like as an imaginary Turkish team, as a real Turkish team. So they know how to beat and play properly and good against ZywOo. So if you give ZywOo lesser players than they have now, what the result would be? Obviously, France.
I see that. I see that angle.
Hot take.
I do see that.
If by joining Falcons you became Saudi Arabian, then Saudi Arabia would have the best team. That's just.
They're gonna try to pass that off next year, though. They're gonna try to pass that.
The joke is they probably should do that. I don't like just give honorary citizenship or something. You know,
they're already doing that thing to the camera. Every Falcons player, that like one thing. Like, I'm pretty sure that's some Saudi Arabian like kind of way of just emoting.
Sure.
They would probably give them passports and like.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will actually.
The green flag just fucking waving there.
Okay.
Nico would take
boys,
that.
I've got a take for you. And what's funny is, sadly, it's one of my ones where it's more like an indulgent point, but I do think it's a good hot take. I actually think my hot take goes like this. No fan, none, not a single one fan that exists in the world in Counter-Strike wants any kind of an abstract rating / qualitative way of interpreting stats. Nobody wants it. Nobody. That has been proven by rating 3.0. Because really what happened was rating 1.0, you could actually, a lot of people who followed the game for a long time, you could just show them the scoreboard and ask them, guess the rating, and you'd have a very good chance of getting close to it. It was quite obvious in the approximation of things like K-D, overall damage, things like that, right? Yeah. Rating 2.0, okay, maybe had a bit more things in, like if you save or what they think. But obviously, the main change in 3.0, if people don't get it, is the round swing thing. And it's the concept of, do you get the kills against ecos or against guns, right? Now, the reason I bring this up, Maui, is those two things that Hit 3.0 basically specializes on is what every pleb who doesn't think you can have an eye test has wanted the whole time of the game. All they've ever wanted and said they wanted was things like, yeah, but did he get any eco kills? Remember, they just say Blame F killed everyone with an eco kill. That was the classic one against his stats, right? Yeah. Then they say on the rating, what the hell, this Oppa just saved all the fucking time. Why does he get that high rating? So they've all made these complaints. As far as I can tell, this is why, if you're Nero, by the way, don't ever do anything for public validation, mate. Because the public are idiots. They don't even know what they want. You've literally given them exactly what they asked for. By the way, do you want to know the most obvious thing? Maui, you'll get this completely as somebody who has an understanding of statistics. One of the most obvious things that would happen if you did make what is essentially quite an extreme ask, like stop showing me raw stats and just show me what the really important part of the stat was, basically, or show me like the part that's like the most valuable to it. The most obvious thing you would get from that system is sometimes numbers that didn't look like they fit a normal distribution. Like, because you're trying to isolate the most important things. So that means there are going to be games where essentially like that joke of last year where we all memed on fucking Immer getting that MVP, but he basically just farmed fucking ecoing terrorists on like middle of Mirage or whatever on CT side, because that's just not what he got to do on Na'Vi. So what people don't, what this shows, the response, because bro, I thought it was just pleb fans. That Dexter post had me out of my fucking god, homie. What, he didn't even appear to know what he was talking about. Like, one thing he even said in that post, listen, dickhead, just stick to shooting that big gun. The idea that they're not like waiting late round, the whole fucking thing is that. So this just shows nobody wants it, bro. What they really wanted was this. They just liked the idea of that. When all you had was basically something akin to a scoreboard and something that vaguely abstracts, put in a way you can see what the scoreboard one is. They wanted it to be close, that you could just have a tiny argument. You go, well, it should be third instead of second. Now that they've actually done what they've basically asked for, which is just give us sort of what, essentially they've asked HLTV, define what's most important in a round and then give us a ranking based on it. So they've done exactly that. And as far as I can tell, nobody likes it. Everyone hates it. And in fact, all they do all the time is do original scoreboard watching. Because you notice that I don't have a bigger problem when someone tries to be an expert and goes, look, I watched the game and why does that round so we can get it on this round because, you know, he killed him 1 second before the other guy did. That's not too bad. That's a guy trying to figure out what round swing means. Most people, as far as I can tell, just scoreboard watch and get really mad that the number isn't the same as the kills. Like, that just seems to be what it turned into. So what do you think, boys? Because I think for years they said they wanted this. Everyone told me rating's better than scoreboard. There's no stat you should go by. So where are you guys at on this? What do you think? Do you believe people? Am I just seeing the whiners? Do you think people fuck with it?
I have a lot of thoughts on this, so I mean, I'll let Kassad go first because I can.
No. I'll let you go first because I'm not really. I try to understand the take properly because the way I'm understanding it, you tell me if I'm right or not, Duncan. You kind of think that the 3.0 is shit. And even though people are asking for it, they don't really want it.
No, here's the thing.
Simplified stats is more...
Like, I don't personally think it is shit. I just think that... I actually think it does what people wanted. It's just that people didn't realise they don't want that. Like, essentially, people do want it to be that just like how many kills you get is a certain level. Put it this way, the example would be, Kassad, imagine something like this for football, where they took goals that are like... I'll give you an example. You know when you have a guy who could actually himself score, but he just passes, so it's 100% his teammate shoots in the open goal. Well, that probably shouldn't get you many points as a goal, right? Because it's like the simplest goal you could ever have. But if you made like goals not worth as much for that guy, then people would lose their mind. They'd be like, he's got 10 goals to say, you know, in their brain. Goal is a goal is a goal. Yeah.
The rifle to rifle frags against eco frags, pretty much, right? Yeah. Okay.
So I don't have a problem with rating 3.0. If anything, I think it does a better job than whatever HLTV rating was. It just seems like they've tried to get more advanced. But I think all fans hate it, bro. I don't think any of them like it. I think they've just learned that they never wanted that.
All right, Maui, go. I have an opinion, but yeah.
I'll just say the take on it is that I have to agree because there's been so much outcry. There's like an example of it probably once every 2 days where we watch a game in a tier 1 tournament, look immediately at the HLTV scoreboard immediately after, and then we see the guy with 105 ADR had lower rating than the guy that had 68 ADR and had 12 less kills. And I know that when I see that, I get sometimes a little bit shocked. Sometimes I was locked into the game enough to recognize that, yes, 6 of those kills were eco frags for the guy that had way more ADR, and that guy really hunted those. And so I was kind of ready for it to do that. Lately, I've been pretty pleased when I watch a game pretty closely with what 3.0 outputs at the end of it. But there is still games where I am watching them very closely, and I still see at the end that 3.0 usurp my expectations, and I see a guy that was pretty low on the scoreboard, just kind of had low deaths, but then he just kind of got vaulted because he never gave up too many bad deaths. Those ones I'm not sure if I really enjoy. I feel like there's so many aspects to this, and it's kind of like a bigger topic than a hot take for me, because I'm thinking about rating a lot especially because it's like I use it pretty frequently to like put together packages of like what I'm interested in about players and just like year-end lists or just like updating my own who are the best player lists and everything like that. But my big bullet point ideas are just that the fans that if you're not watching a game, it can look ridiculous at the end because you usually can, like you mentioned, with 1.0 or 2.0, 2.1, you could look at the scoreboard, you could match it to the rating and be like, oh, that's a little bit different than what the scoreboard reads, but it's not so far off that it's bewildering. You're usually like, okay, that might make sense. And I think that's why in a lot of ways, my second opinion is just that I think 2.1 was probably my favorite rating ever on paper because I could watch a game, it would lightly punish players that I know were just saving too much, and I'd be like, yes, nice. Like, he didn't get too good of a rating from just staying alive and saving. But then 3.0 is that I think when I watch a game really closely, I usually do agree with it. I still will sometimes disagree with it, but I will sometimes see a box score at the end and I'm like, how is that even possible?
Oh, we all do.
And so,
by the way, I also think it's a bit like VRS. I don't think anyone really understands it. Like, I myself only lightly grasp the round swing concept. Sometimes I'm off on what that means even. It's hard to understand.
Because there was a game recently where I remember a play it was broken down like a ZywOo performance at EPL actually, where he ended up with a pretty low performance.
Yes.
Like it was.
I think it was in the final.
Like
it might be in the final even.
Yeah. Someone went through all of his deaths one by one.
Stats, but if you ever watched it, like actually, they had some games where it didn't look like it had any impact. If you watched like the game or something, I think it was something like that.
Someone broke down one map. I think it was ZywOo on Nuke in either the grand finals or semifinals, and they went through all of his deaths. It checked out, and then the rating that he had was something like a 1.05, and it actually was like, did he really play 1.05? Because he did pretty well in that game, actually. But then the rating kind of hurt. With 3.0 rating really hurt him in it. And it just, that was one where, and I've watched back a whole like Mezzi POV. The POV is actually on Vu's secondary channel. He breaks down like, how did Mezzi get a 1.4 from this game? And you watch it and you're like, that doesn't look like a 1.4 game to anybody. So there's a lot of instances of that. And I think in the single map sample size, it's usually it can usually be pretty darn accurate, but then you'll just get 1 out of 20 performances where you're like, I don't know what 3.0 saw in that guy that I didn't see when I watched the game live. So it's just a tough rating that where I think Nero just needs to detach himself a little bit from the community and be like, transparency is really good in this industry, but I actually think pulling away and just letting the fans work it out themselves is probably better for his sanity today.
The thing is, like with rating 3.0 is or 2.0, all this like rating part of the stats is just cancer to me. Like I legitimately think that like that ruins or destroys more than it gives. Like, listen, I understand. Like, the statistical part of the Counter-Strike is important in many aspects. I want to know in what position is like, you know, my flash efficiency is good or not. I want to know like my player, is he performing well and what is his numbers when he is playing more passive than more defensive, and see those type of stats like left and right, and like see like maybe this map is good for my player and maybe this map is bad for my player. Not based on the fucking rating 7.0 or whatever the fuck is it, just based on some sheer numbers, individual numbers, like, you know, like I said, the flash efficiency, like, you know, all these things, right? Utility damage and all this stuff, right? And I want those stats. I want to see like who is the best team player, who has the most enemies flashed, who has the most grenade damage as a player on T side of Mirage, and I want to see like how those grenades land and what timings those are the stats that interest me. This 3.0, 2.0 round swing save, I literally have zero interest in that. This is straight for fantasy league players and for fans who have nothing else to do besides to look at rating and then flame other players for it or praise other players for it. Like, literally has no use, in my opinion. My personal, as a former coach, and no use at all. Like, I just can't see the reason why we would like spend so much. Like we said, Nero, was he the guy who did all that and created all of this? That's the HLTV guy,
Yeah, he did it. He did it.
So you are like going based on back to the Duncan's point, and he's going way too much to please the crowd that doesn't even know what I want. And then you end up with a product that's going to be shit on or people are going to be dissatisfied, and all you did was try to make, good product for those people that asked for it, and it's just a mess.
Yeah.
Basically makes no sense. For me, I would just remove the complete rating, completely. But the thing is, like I said, a certain aspect of stats are important to understand, like how your game is good. Is your game is good or bad on different aspects? But totally, the 3.0, 2.0, it's all the same shit to me, and it's just, for me, makes no sense. It's just a stupid thing to have, Which leads me to my point. Unless anybody has anything to...
Of course it does. Go on.
Unless anybody else has to...
I feel like it's not even going to be connected, but go for it. You make a segue.
No, it's connected. It's connected in a way. The HLTV MVP is so rigged.
Isn't it literally a fan vote? Or do you mean the one that they give out?
HLTV.
Or you mean the one that they actually
HLTV, like they actually give out...
Not the man of the match, right? Okay.
It is so obviously rigged and shit that it's lost its value after this.
Wait a minute, rigged for who?
Monacy was.
Oh my god! Wait a minute,
Monacy, yes.
Kassan is secretly, and he's actually secretly a ZywOo stan because he thinks they're rigging it for Monacy. Holy shit!
No.
The hero take. Come on, hit me with it. Come on.
Listen. They are rigging it to make it more interesting, so people would be more like into it. Right now, after Pro League...
What does that mean? Go on. What does that mean?
After Pro League, ZywOo was so obviously the MVP of this event.
It's pretty good.
That there was nobody else, who was...
Monacy was cooking in that tournament.
He was cooking it. I had him before the event to be top 3 and he's second.
Okay.
That's what I give him. The Twistzz would be number 3 for me, and ZywOo would be number 1. If you look at the rating, now the rating says 1.383 already, 3.0 is 138 for Monacy, 128 for ZywOo. KD difference is 155 for ZywOo, 147 for Monacy.
Okay.
Plus 111 frags for ZywOo, plus 86 for Monacy. ZywOo played more maps, automatically the more rounds as well. He beat Monacy in the final. 3-0. The final wasn't even that close. They beat that team in the finals. The Falcons looked like a bunch of tourists in, where was it held, in Stockholm? Going to Sweden, just fucking chilling in that final. That's how they made them look. And part of that was obviously Flames with the great game and everything, but ZywOo as well. ZywOo throughout the whole event. He was supposed to be the MVP. He was supposed to be the MVP 100%, which would do what? Cement him as the best player of 2025.
Wait a minute, it goes deeper. So this isn't even just Maui, that they're generally rigging it. That they did this specific one to make the Player of the Year race.
Specific
Is that
one,
the concept?
yes.
Right, okay.
Specific one was rigged.
So this would have made him number 1 at the end of the year, in your opinion? If he
now that there is a chance for Donk, for this and that. ZywOo winning
There's levels to this conspiracy. I like it. How far does it go? Keep going.
If ZywOo won this, which he should have, he would be the number 1 player no matter what happens in the rest of the year. 100%. Now that he didn't win it, now there is a potential to Donk to win the major and Chengdu and all these things, and then maybe people will question it. And by the end of the January is when they, do the little thing where they present it, we're gonna be wondering like, who is it? Now there is no question who is it. It's ZywOo, and it should have been ZywOo. And this shit is rigged, and I'm not supporting it anymore.
Go on,
I love that finish. The hot take is that MVPs are rigged. I felt like if ZywOo, it felt like a formality for ZywOo to win it, even though in some of the playoff performances he didn't actually look as stellar as you would have wanted. I mean, the grand finals was to be. I mean, FlameZ was great. ZywOo still played well. I'm almost surprised. I think his rating again was a little bit lower than I thought it was going to be. When watching the games, then seeing the rating corresponding those, it was confusing. Like I don't. If you're plus 15 as an opper in a grand finals, like I mean, it looks like he had like a 1.5 KD roughly speaking in the grand finals. ZywOo. I don't know how that's not better than a 1.05 rating, which in turn really negatively impacted him. And yeah, you could say that his kills were less impactful. They were, than Monacy's, who was like fighting everything to keep Falcons' dreams alive in it. But like, I don't know. I can't really say it's a conspiracy, but I did look at some of the just like leaderboard stats. You know, you go to the end of it where it's just objective metrics for the event. And ZywOo just crushed it in so many of them. Like in terms of like if you take away the rating 3.0, the round swing kind of ones, which are all like, you know, advanced metrics, taking all these different factors in, but you look at just the pure raw numbers, the damage difference per round for ZywOo is just it blows m0NESY out of the water. I mean, like he blows pretty much everybody out of the water with a stat that really just means I shoot you way more than you shoot me, which to me is also pretty valuable. His KD differential is insane. His total kills are really high. His multi-frag rounds are one or more kill rounds is better than everybody. Like just again, the raw metrics that you can't fudge this with advanced, you know, algorithms or anything like that. ZywOo was killer at this event. So for him not to be the MVP, again, it was a shocker for me. But I don't think it's rigged. I think that this is where it's just like, did round swing go too far? Like, did it go too far? Did Nero cook a little too hard with round swing? Because I thought m0NESY was really damn good at this tournament. I don't know if I would have. I don't think I would have handed him the MVP over ZywOo though myself.
No, before Duncan replies, how many times have we seen a player that doesn't win the event wins the MVP?
It happens more than
gets
you'd think.
Defeated in the grand final like this.
By the way,
I remember
ZywOo himself has done it a bunch of times, Kassan.
Bunch of times.
At least 2 or 3.
The quantity I'm asking, like how many times?
Yeah.
I remember happening it to Simple.
Yeah, pretty sure the main people it's happened to.
Yeah.
Twistzz did it once, Kenny S did it a couple of times. It's mainly Simple and ZywOo, obviously.
Okay.
There were a handful of other ones, like when I dug into it, but I actually don't remember all their names. But like there were a couple unlikely ones too out there.
All right, do you want to know one angle I think you guys are missing? So there's 2 parts here. One, you just did the fucking box score watching for the final. Did you actually watch it with your eyes? Like ZywOo did fuck all in that final, mate. Like he actually low key. It wasn't as bad as the major, but he wasn't even their best player, mate. Like it wasn't even particularly.
No, he wasn't their best player.
He actually just sort of like phoned it in. And the difference is, yeah, m0NESY did not have his best match in the final. But first of all, he did have a couple of good eye test moments. And then secondly, his team collapsed. He was actually fine. His team just went to shit in the final. That was half the problem. Once they lost the first map, they were basically just mentally checked out and they were just ready for the second place medal, weren't they? Despite all that drama about KSOK. My problem is this. There's 2 parts here. So one is this, right? One of the factors, I believe it was even said by HLTV when m0NESY got the MVP, is, bro, you guys are doing the total stats. His T-side numbers were fucking mental for an AWPer, bro. Like, by the way, here's his stats for the tournament. He attempts 23.9% of opening kills and had a 76% success rate, right? 20, if you don't know, Brokey attempts like 8% of fucking opening kills or something, and you all think he's like an aggressive AWPer. That means m0NESY for real on T-side is just like taking engagements, finding. If you've ever watched, bro, there's certain maps for real where like he goes first and the fucking rifler comes behind him, and because he's m0NESY, he does that like super fast zoom in and kill the guy, then duck back out, and then the rifler peeks out for like if someone goes for the trade. Like it's fucking. This is actually not just a normal AWPing performance, but the AWPers in CS just clean up on CT side, don't they? They just sit in the bomb site and get 3 kills when people rush their side. This was all like T-side shit, which is like super valuable to me. So I thought m0NESY did play fucking insane at this tournament. So I'm fine with this one personally. I don't think it's that big a deal. And then also, as I just mentioned, I'm sure there's no one who can be a ZywOo fan is daring to actually suggest you can't lose a final 0-3 and win the MVP. Because if so, let's go ahead and fucking take. There's even a pro league that fucking ZywOo did it in. I think it was season 19 or something. Like he did exactly the same thing when they lost to like it'll have been like Mouse or something like that. Yeah, I think it was Mouse actually, like 2024 or whatever it was. So like ZywOo's done it himself. And also, this is actually why I guess it does tie to my point, Kassan. This is also why. I think someone once explained it this way. This is the best way to describe it. You know, HLTV rating isn't a stat, right? It's a bunch of stats put into like something that's an abstraction, basically. It's not a raw stat. But the problem is, because it's a number, people treat it as a stat. And this is exactly where you can't do that. Because when people compare, even 2 players in the same game, so ZywOo and m0NESY in just the final, let's look at like ADR. They're not facing the same scenario. It's the reason why I find the NFL the most worthless sport to do those like sports ball discussions about. Because think about this, right? Say me and and you are quarterbacks and we play in the same game, and you just look at the end at the number of yards I had and the number of touchdowns I had, the number of interceptions, and then we compare that and say who was the better quarterback. But I didn't play against the same defense you did. I played against your defense. You played against mine. So I'm playing a complete different style. In fact, at the end of the game, if you look and I have 3 touchdowns and you have 1, maybe we look at the game and you never had a fucking receiver open the whole game and your 1 touchdown's fucking godlike, and the fact you even got the... But maybe for me, I had like 3 touchdowns that were just passed to a guy here and he was just like free at the 1-yard line and he ran it in. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, I do think it's hard to do like stat comparisons I have. So I don't hate the idea that people think ZywOo could be it. I actually think it's between ZywOo and Morrissey, and I don't hate it if ZywOo wins it, but I will say I'm not the one who established it. It was established years ago that you also have to have like a good final as well, typically, to get this MVP award. Like, here's the part that you're missing, Kassad, is... Like, the part, if you notice, we didn't address is I don't think any of this was actually rigged by HLTV to specifically make Donk be allowed to win and ZywOo not be confident. I don't think any of that's the case. I think that's a good hot take to make it funny, but I think this is actually the way that they're evaluating. Put it this way, the reason why I point out I don't think ZywOo was very good in the final is, bro, if he was even a tiny bit better statistically, he would have won this MVP, I'm telling you. Like, if he'd have actually had anything close to a carry performance in the final, he would have won the MVP 100%. It wouldn't have mattered. By the way, even that rating thing wouldn't have mattered. You know, like the ZywOo being like 0.1 lower on the rating or whatever, that wouldn't have mattered. If he'd have just had like one big map where say he'd carried the last map of the final, say he'd had like 2 or 3 big clutches and he had like, you know, a 20 bomb, I don't even think that rating would have mattered. I think they would have said, right, in the final he was the better player and over the tournament, you know, his team. So I actually think again, essentially, I'm not in the middle on the take. I definitely don't agree it was rigged though. I think that's nonsense. I don't think they're really doing that at all. It's a funny angle, but I don't believe it's true. Right, what about... have we all had a take there? Oh, let's do a fan take. This is why I told you guys we need you to submit some takes. So if you want to submit a hot take, subscribe to the Last Nation Discord. There's a channel there, CS Hot Takes. If you don't want us to say your alias, just say you don't want it mentioned, put in a take there. Make it good. If possible, put some reasoning, because this is an example of a shit take, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Because what the problem is, he didn't give any reasoning. So listen to this take. Dalton said... If Twistzz was born, this is such a weird take. Listen, if Twistzz was born in the United States, I believe he would be viewed as the best NACS player of all time. That's it. That's the take.
Okay, well,
you do what you want with that. If he was born in the United States, presumably instead of Canada, then he would be viewed as the best NACS player of all time. What do you think of this take?
There's a slight amount of American bias from the NA region, but it's almost just simply a matter of quantity of American fans versus Canadian fans. I don't think there's some American exceptionalism that goes on within this kind of like this space or anything like that. In fact, I think that more people lately, EliGE kind of had a nice resurgence with what he's been doing with complexity and even phase, but a lot of people would probably still fight for Twistzz being the GOAT NA player over EliGE, because he's got the hardware. Twistzz wins. Twistzz wins pretty easily, actually. The major victory, the fact that he has 2 Grand Slams, the MVPs I think are still in the favor of EliGE, but it's still it's comparable. I think EliGE technically has more HLTV top 20 appearances, and he has higher appearances. It's really the thing is that EliGE and Twistzz are such great players in history that you're kind of just saying, what do you value more? Do you value more the individual peak of a player, or do you value team success? Because there's an aspect to that I don't know if we always can define. It's just kind of more nebulous. It's like there's an aspect of luck and there's an aspect of being a good team player, and it's hard to quantify which of those is Twistzz better than EliGE. Is he actually a better team player than EliGE, or is he just luckier to have been on some really good rosters at the right time? Some of that is even career choices, and I don't really think I'm not always reviewing a player's career based off of the choices that they made. Like, Rops has got a great career. I'm not sure if I'm really vaulting him in my all-time riflers just because he made the very shrewd decision to leave FaZe and join Vitality at the perfect time, and it's probably one of the best single individual choices that anybody's ever made. Like, I don't think that changes my view of him as an individual player. So, no, I mean, the take is just kind of baseless, isn't it?
I think it's worth a discussion at least. Simply because those two players are very similar in a sense of, accomplishments and like the whole like sheer of capacity and talent for both players individually, right? There is a very tight margin between those two players. Like who is better than those out of those two? It's very hard to say. I think there is an argument against whoever you say. If you say EliGE because of this and that, there are people going to be arguing with a good solid points that maybe Twistzz is better, right? And I feel like this is a conversation similar to like, let's say in sports, I wouldn't say Messi, Ronaldo, I would say maybe Kobe, LeBron, right? But because none of them is definitely MJ, right? So Kobe, LeBron, like who is better than of those two? I feel like that's the same thing. Like who is the, if you look at the titles, then you have Kobe Bryant, right? If you look at the longevity, then you have LeBron. If you look at the dominance in the position, like, and then you could the clutch factor of Kobe Bryant and like like so many aspects that you can look between Kobe and LeBron. But I'm just switching that to EliGE and Twistzz. And EliGE has been in complexity and a little bit in phase, and what he did in Liquid and then you have Twistzz, who switched teams a little bit, and then he played in Misfits, if I remember correctly, at the beginning of his career with, what's his name, the Sick and Sean Gers and like all these things. And it's like ever since then, he has been like this guy you knew that he's going to be one of the greatest North American or, NA scene kind of players. So if he was born technically in the United States, I don't think it would make any difference. I think that would still be a dull conversation, like 50-50 or 51-49 or 49-51 kind of between those two players. And it's sad. The saddest part is that we don't have a third one.
True.
That we can put in the mix. Like we just talk about EliGE and his accomplishments, what he does and what he does now, and Twistzz, what he did.
I mean, the joke is it probably should have been your boy Naf, but he kind of was too chill. Yeah, he was just too chill.
He faded away completely. Like didn't use the
people
potential.
back in the day would have said Stewie or Tarek or something, maybe.
Yeah, and now there is no number 3. It's just come down to those two, and there is not much difference between those two. I think the half of the people would. It's literally 50-50.
Yeah.
If you took 1,000 fans right now from North America, it would be split. 500 would say EliGE, 500 would say Twistzz, and that's a normal thing. I don't see much difference between those two, and I personally wouldn't be able, without deep thinking and analyzing, say who is better, with certainty, because both of those are mechanically strong players, smart players. Outside of the server, one is like normal, one isn't. But the bottom line on the server itself, it's a completely different story.
The thing with these kind of conversations between Twistzz and EliGE is like I'm not even sure I care that much about what the fan vote would be between who's the GOAT. Like I care more about what a panel would say of people that are in our industry, who is the North American GOAT. Like, for example, I know with Moses's logic, he would probably have to pick Twistzz just because he usually values like team achievement. Like that's why Devices his GOAT. I think Launders kind of values team achievement as well, so he would say Twistzz too. But then I think somebody like, I already know Thorin had been leaning EliGE for quite some time. I myself would probably have to lean EliGE today. I think Yanko, and it's weird to like just spitball what these guys would say,
but take a guess.
But I think Yanko's kind of a difficult one for me. I'm not sure what Yanko would actually say. I don't know if you guys have a guess, but I mean, Kassan, what would you say? I'm actually just curious because I'm not even.
Who do you pick?
Yeah. Who do you pick between them?
The thing is like, that's a fucked up thing, because if I straight from the top of my head, I would say EliGE, simply because I like what he brings to the team together with his individual performance, rather than what Twistzz does. Twistzz is more individualistic and like not really a part of the team that much as EliGE is, in a sense of contributing in different areas. Especially we saw what happened to Liquid after he took over the IGL role, and then that he is not really capable of doing those things, And EliGE was always kind of the guy, despite his like, personality being questioned and like all these things. I'm not gonna put that into the equation, but I would pick EliGE over Twistzz but that's a small margin. It's 51-49, 52-48. That's how small the margin is.
Put it this way, what I hate about these topics is it is in that sense like ZywOo versus Simple or Ronaldo versus Messi. The only person who is wrong in these discussions is the moron who goes, it's person A, and if you think person B, you're a fucking moron. No, the whole reason these are great convos is because, like Kassad said, the most obvious first thing you will realise is it's only these two. Like, the other names don't even really deserve to be in there, do they? Like, it's really, basically, you can have one of these two, and no matter which you pick, you're right. Like that could be the greatest player of all time from NA. So I agree. Like, if anything, what they both deserve immediately to be congratulated on is they both have the crazy, not only peak, longevity, success, that they even both get to be in this conversation. There is no third person. Like, the third person, one of these factors would eliminate them. And then also, by the way, they're also still both fucking going now. That's also what's dope about it. Like, this isn't even necessarily over. If you want it to be all of CS, maybe there's still a chance for like 1 or 2 years of them doing some dope shit and one of them distinguishing themselves further over the other. And then to go to the original topic, though, because I do think you have to rewind it. This just sounds like you're some really bizarre Canadian fan, right? That seems like the obvious demographic, because what a weird victimization angle. Because as Maui pointed out, bro, have you just been in CS for 5 minutes? You are aware that when Twistzz was on FaZe the first time, nearly all the fans said it was Twistzz because of those reasons, because he had 2 Grand Slams, because he'd won a major, things like EliGE had only just won 1 Grand Slam and no major. So actually back then, obviously EliGE then, when he went to 2022, was falling off too. Like, actually at that point, I feel like everyone said it was Twistzz, bro. I mean, I will say that in general, I agree with Kassad. It's not a very interesting discussion, because if you do go back in time, before any of these players, when Stewie was the one who'd won the major and the Grand Slam, fans said that made him the GOAT, even though at the time, I thought his level, remember he played the same team as them, was way lower than Twistzz and EliGE. They were just going off accomplishments back then because he had the best overall record, didn't he? So I think actually this is a weird topic to me, because I feel like, first of all, I agree, it's almost a 50-50, you pick it choice at the moment. And then secondly, I think there have been eras when people did think Twistzz was the GOAT, and it wasn't. I actually think you're being too precious and in self-victimizing by doing the whole like, if he was born American. I don't think that would have changed it at all. I mean, first of all, way back in the day, I can tell you that when they used to have all the 1.6 pros, all the North American pros, if players and fans, if they were from America, they didn't suddenly think Jaguar sucked because he was from Canada. They used to think this guy was the shit. He was mega. I think actually what people are missing, I'll give a very quick example and people will get what I mean. Right? You'll get even British people who'll get in these discussions about NA versus EU, and they'll be like, oh, well, Europe's way better. And so I just want to go, bro, that's cope. Because if you're British, if the best player was from the UK, you wouldn't say Europe, you dickhead. You're saying Europe because there's no one that good from the UK. Like, Messi isn't on the level of Simple. So for you to have the status against the... Like, the joke is, if someone said NA versus EU and you're British, right, if they go, well, my player's EliGE, and then you go, well, I've got Messi. EliGE is a better player than Messi. What are you talking about? Like, that's not even a discussion. Like, one of them plays a role player, the other one's a star player. So I do think in the same way, the player that proves this isn't true, I think I've actually got the angle, Maui. Here's what shows that it is incorrect, this take, that it's just because he's Canadian. The player you have to look at is Malbs. Because Malbs, technically, Central America is actually North America as well. There's only North and South America. There's no continent called Central America. That's just what you call the part that isn't the USA and Canada, basically. And that, I can tell you, Malbs, I think, if anything, got slightly overrated because he's from North America. People want there to be North American players that are good. I think that kind of shows it. I think everyone embraced Malbs fully because he came from the NA scene and he is an NA player, technically. So doesn't that kind of prove it? Like, if he was actually, like, I think last year's the best example. If he was actually like a top 10 player in the world, people would give him all his props for, of course.
Yeah, I think people, at least from my perspective, and my friends who follow Counter-Strike and just even coming up in the space before I worked in the industry, I don't think there was like a really there was any disdain, let alone like when there's a distinction between a lineup that's. Even HLTV uses a flag sometimes when it's a Canadian-American team. They have this flag that's like half the USA flag split diagonally with the Canadian flag. Because I think as a continent, we've just kind of accepted the fact that we're going to mix and match players from those two countries. It actually, when NAF does really well, I feel good in a way. You know, like I feel like it's not my country, but I'm not like there was a lot of teams in history, like Optic was one, for example. There was like a mix of like Canadian and American players, and that was before I was an industry professional. And I was super proud when that team won. I was like, this is awesome. Like it's I didn't think about it because I feel like there's so much intermingling between Canada and America on so many levels. Sure, let's ignore the fact that in the last year and a half, the country's leader has like really kind of like tried to separate us. But like in prior to the last 2 years, Canada and America to me felt almost synonymous, and I almost found them interchangeable in a lot of different aspects culturally. Like we play in the same sports leagues. Like I don't think twice about like, oh, a Toronto team is in the league. Like get them out of the playoffs. We got to get rid of the Canadian team. Like no, I don't really feel that at all. And I think that most Americans, until very recent times, always saw Canada a lot more favorably and would root for them in an international affair before we root for a European team or player.
You do like a person that if you were a Canadian, you would vote for Trudeau. You would, definitely.
What a take. What does that even mean?
I don't know.
It's no secret walk or something.
When the last free nation releases a geopolitical
LFN politics will actually probably ruin everything else. It will probly destroy
the joke here network. Obviously is the idea, which we would never do, by the way, that we would ever do an LFN politics hot take point made. Kassad would be on the show and his opening take would be, you look like someone who voted for Trudeau, which is like, okay, right. Welcome to LFN. That, by the way, that show would get cancelled and have no sponsors within 5 minutes flat. I know,
instantly. That algorithm would kill us instantly.
We get a lot off of our chest.
Yeah,
we're going to go to Rumble or something.
Yeah. No, the joke is like, you wouldn't even need to do a clip. You'd just post the whole episode to live stream fails every week. We just all get cancelled.
Every week.
Every take.
But to add to Maui's like North American, Canadian, US on a smaller scale, that's like Serbia, Bosnia, right? Even though Nico is technically and Hunter is technically Bosnian, they live in a city. For example, Hunter lives in a city that is fully Serbian. Like 90% of the people there are Serbian, and he does have a Bosnian passport. For example, Nico has a Serbian passport too, and it's like, we consider them and they consider us the same people. Sure. Like Maui said, you cheer for them, they cheer for you. Like you don't really look at it as just another nation, like a foreign nation. Similar, especially with Bosnia and Montenegro, right? And the other ones are like iffy, like maybe Macedonia, North Macedonia with Kiksan and stuff. That's a little bit further away from, like, let's say Bosnia, but it's still the similar thing. So I get what you're saying, and I also see that the angle, like recently the politics, the Trump and stuff, right? There has been a little bit of a divide between the two countries, but still, I do think that players itself in the region, the whole continent, are kind of considering the same thing.
The key angle here is what I said about the British to European one, which is the reason this take doesn't work. Put it this way, the take would be great if this was a take about like hockey or something. Yeah, I've no doubt there would be an incredibly large divide between Americans and Canadians who they'd be biased for. If the best player right now, if Conor McDavid was American, I'm sure he'd be viewed very differently than the fact he's Canadian, right? By both sets of people. But the difference is, like I say, when you're the underdog, when you need as many good players as you can, people will magically look beyond that and sort of go, it's not that big a deal, is it? And I do think that's true. I do.